What I want to present tonight, just briefly, is this idea about designing your legacy. And I'll basically be using some of what we're doing with One Heart and in my life as an example of that. So today or tonight, I'd like you to keep this in mind, some of those little seeds you might have in your own mind or in your own heart about what you want your legacy to be, without it being a morbid thing, but something we can start to work on and celebrate now. Because for me, my legacy is something I believe I know will happen with full confidence. And my legacy will be to transform the lives of thousands of the most disadvantaged children in some of the most impoverished regions of the world. So for me, this isn't just a theory. I think that'll be nice. One day I'm going to do something about that. For me, it's this idea of, okay, the same as I do in business, I have a plan. So you start to put a plan in place so you know what the end result is going to be from the outset. So for me personally, I'm doing now what I define as designing my legacy. So tonight I just want to be able to go through 3 steps about how I could share some of these thoughts, and I know many will already be across this, but I think it's always important to be able to see examples of that to inspire and encourage others as well, because it is a big idea, I guess, to be able to think about that long-term legacy, even better when that works. So just to start, as a little bit of an introduction, because most might not have met me or talked too much, but just as a personal snapshot, I'm from Melbourne. I'm married with 2 kids. That's my little girl there, Aria and Reeve, and my wife, Keena. And I guess me as a person, I haven't got to talk with everyone yet, and I guess sometimes I can be a little reserved, but basically at my core, I guess you could say I'd be a passionate social entrepreneur. And that was probably a phrase that has come later when I realised what it is, I guess, that drives me. And I guess you could say there's a bit of a label for it now. But in everything I do, in my work, in my professional career, it is always focused on a bigger picture. Anything I do to generate wealth, anything I do to be able to consider this legacy, I have in mind this idea of seeing what I can do to impact a broader element of the community. Now, my actual job, even though I'm here mostly talking about One Heart while I've been here, is I'm an architect. So I'm a partner of one of the larger firms in Melbourne, and we call Clark Hopkins Clark Architects, and we're across a range of different sectors with 6 partners and around 90 colleagues, staff in our office there. And we basically specialise in different sectors, and me personally, without going into a lot of background here, I basically lead and drive the community development arm and the commercial retail architecture. So that, I guess, allows me to think maybe a little bit differently, more strategic in a way about this idea of architecture and urban planning. My job during the day is designing whole towns, everything from shopping centres to civic centres through to community centres and everything else in between what goes into a town centre. So much so, I guess, that, like I say, wanting to be able to put value add into others in everything I do, I've been on a bit of a journey and about to release a book in the coming months called Creating Vibrant Communities. So this is looking at a fresh approach to delivering healthy, sustainable and livable communities. The idea is that I find I like a challenge of being able to take the biggest problems and start working a way to address them. And I find, even though we do a lot of work in cities, the area of disadvantage in our own states is some of the growth area developments where I find that there's a great amount of social disadvantage and social exclusion the way developments come about. So again, that's another story, but that, I guess, in a nutshell, is a way to be able to use my own personal skills to be able to improve the lives of others through my everyday work. On a community level, I spent the last year leading a team to establish a drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre, and it's a residential therapeutic model. We bought a house, we were donated vehicles, we put all that together. We partnered with an organisation out of Queensland that's been doing it for 15 years, and we've basically set up a franchise type model. And my spirit is to be able to get in, make change, make it happen. So that's all up and running now, incredibly successful. We cover 5% of the beds in all of Victoria now with what we've set up there, and I'll pass that over to a manager now to keep running that from there. And I guess my real passion is, and I'll share a little bit more tonight, is about One Heart Foundation, which I'll come back to. And just in the mix of all of that, I'm working on a second book, but this is a bit of a slow burner as I build some of these things as I go about designing your legacy. So I'm driven by quotes. I know some people don't find them as inspiring as others, but this is one that I do truly take to heart. It's not just a, wow, read a quote. Because I honestly believe that change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. So for me personally, I love a challenge. I love the biggest, most complex projects in terms of architecture and urban design, but I love the biggest challenges in terms of social and community development. So this sort of thing is, I guess, me all through, that I want to be a change. I'm not going to stand by and just wait for others to do it when I know that I have it within me to do it, to lead it and make a difference. So I find through my life I've had quite a few defining moments, and I know for many this might be a defining moment right here. I know for a fact it would be for some. And I guess for me, touching on what Caroline shared about earlier, about your obituary, I think this idea of what's going to be said at your funeral. For me, there was a definite point in time when a young friend, we're only in our early 20s, and he was being stupid on a motorbike and killed himself, wrapped himself around a tree. And I remember being at his funeral, and his life was celebrated. It wasn't necessarily a moment where I thought there was a problem with this idea of what's being said at a funeral, but it did make me realise that there's lots of funny stories, and it was great, we celebrated his life, but what I did realise, I want my life, I want my legacy to be something much more meaningful, and to know that I'm making a difference and go about doing it now. And I guess a really defining moment for me is that I've travelled a lot and worked through India and Asia and parts of Europe. And one poignant moment, I was sitting in a remote tribal village up in the Himalayan region of India, and we were working with some doctors. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, it's amazing to be able to watch these doctors use their skills, volunteer to make a difference in these kids' lives. And I wrote a note to myself in my journal that if I'm not doing something in 10 years' time to impact the lives of others, then I'm a failure. And that never escaped me. I couldn't escape my own words. It was definitely a defining moment for myself. So basically this journey I'm on is reverse engineering my life. I know what I want the end goal to be. This is the same as all of you do in business, and I'm making massive changes to make that happen now. And I guess it rolls out through my career and through my philanthropy and social justice causes. So tonight I just want to touch on a few points of how you can design your legacy. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole theory of the book, but just touch on 3 points. And these will be a repeat of what some people already know in their heart, but I guess, again, it's good to reiterate these things and illustrate how I apply them in my life. The key thing is you need to have a purpose. You need to have the passion. And I think I'll just finish reading Naomi's book and touches on the exact same points. It's not rocket science, but it's so, so important. If you're doing something for the sake of it, to tick a box and make yourself feel good, then it's not going to last. It's not sustainable. You need something that motivates you. You need to be able to, like Christine did, you've sat in that place and you've seen the need and you just think that is what I'm going to make a difference for. So you need to find that purpose and that passion to be able to make it sustainable, long-term, persevere, because some of these things that we're going to head into are tough. For me, now I don't put this image on there to go, oh, I expect to motivate people to make a change, but for me, it's not so much a thing I do out of, I'd love to make a difference for a small community sports team in my village, in my town or something. That's great if that's your cause and you want to get involved locally. But for me, I get motivated by looking at something like this image taken and thought, I can't stand by and let this happen. I can't walk through, like the story we heard before, full of food and clothes and just see kids. That's his home right there. That's where he lives, that's where he eats. So I guess the key thing for me, and again, these are stats I'm not trying to impress you with, but this is what drives me. This is my personal journey. I can't accept the fact that with the incredible wealth, Australia being in the top 5 wealthiest countries in the world, that 22,000 children a day can die. That's 8 million children every year. So that inspires me to make a difference. So where I went from there in my personal journey is to start One Heart Foundation. Now, people have probably heard me talk about this during the last few days, and I think what I'd like to get straight into is a video, so perhaps we can prepare the lights there for that, to start to give some reality to it, and I'll explain a little bit more about what it is, but it's, I guess, my life's work and what I know I'm starting to work towards in building that legacy, because I know, as you saw my vision at the start, it is the first step, the first village of many to be able to transform the lives of thousands of children.
Hiya,
To give a quick snapshot, because this isn't all about one heart, I'll go back to the idea of legacy, but to put it in context for people of what we're creating here, our goals are simply to break the poverty cycle. It's not a handout. I don't want to be involved in anything which is just a meal, I feel good about it and I go on my way. Everything we do with One Heart, everything has to be sustainable. Our vehicles, they transport our kids to school. They also get hired out to hotels to transport staff. Our farm, our crops, our fish farms, everything is sustainable, so that we can have this amplified effect of being able to replicate this and really see a change in kids' lives. So the key model is that it has to be empowering people. We can't just say we're going to break a poverty cycle just by doing a band-aid fix. It needs to be education driven, and it needs to be done in a model of care and love, because you can provide education in an institution. It's not going to change people's heart, because you need to do those things hand in hand. And of course, we tackle the biggest issue we can of orphaned and abandoned children that just have no other options in countries where there is no social support network, that they have no alternative. And a key element, as I say, is sustainability. Socially, we have social workers at least identify any remaining relatives that we connect our kids with back in their local villages. So there's a social sustainability model to it. Environment, own water, food, etc. It's all sustainable. And our financial model is key, that we need to build our remaining stages of the school so that we can educate surrounding children at a cost of a third the price of some of the other education models in the region, except we've just ranked number 3 in the entire region of Kenya in our first 6 months of operation, and we're providing it at a third of the cost. So we're starting to see that effect of changing an entire community as well. So they're our goals. They're pretty big. But I love these quotes, the same that Nelson Mandela said, that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And that's what we're on a mission to do. But like I say in the video, this truly is just the beginning. We're just trying to refine this model that we can start to replicate it and see that impact of thousands of kids' lives. So as that video said, we're the legal guardians of 75 children. We're not just running a small program, we are their legal guardians. We take full responsibility for them. And we have 3 homes and a school and the large farm. But our next step is to build our first high school, so then we can continue to grow with our kids. We educate 160 kids at the moment with capacity for 300. And you can imagine the impact that would have in these tribal villages. Then we need to start growing our income generating agricultural initiatives. So we provide food for our village, but then we also sell the excess and we train local farmers in new farming technologies. And then we need to provide additional housing for additional children, 30 extra kids that will be rescued from the streets. So they're our next steps. But in my mind, I'm always careful who you share your vision with, and I know most people would believe this. They thought I was crazy and I said we're going to start a second home. I didn't want to scare them to say soon we'll be starting a second village in Kenya where we've perfected the models and got registrations and all the tax deductibility and all those things. But then we take the model to the world and be able to start to reach into the most troubled regions around the world as well. So why is One Heart different? Basically, we tackle the biggest problems and see true transformation through holistic education and care. And I guess because it is a small boutique type organisation, we have others covering some of our admin costs, so everything we raise goes to the projects, and you can see it literally on the ground, the difference that's making. Now, in terms of your legacy, you have to think about others, and this isn't just me that believes this. I believe that you've got to ask yourself this question: is the legacy that you're going to leave something about what you've collected while you're here, or is it about what you're going to leave in others? Look, I'm all for making as much money as we can, and I'm at a point in my life where I have a successful business, so my focus is on balancing those, where I can generate the incomes but still be able to sow into others. Martin Luther King says the life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Albert Schweitzer said the purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion and the will to help others. Again, these aren't quotes just for quote's sake, they're the things that I use to inspire me. But I want to illustrate this with another example, because it's the people, it's the kids, these are real situations. And a changed life. This is our oldest girl. She was one of the first girls that I met when we were going out into meeting the tribal elders to identify children to come in. Her name's Sharon. And before I run this clip, I just need to illustrate that Sharon's mother was mentally disabled. Her mother tried to burn their kids alive. Sharon fled, and she was able to go to her grandmother. Sadly, both have passed away, but we were able to intervene and we were given legal care of Sharon. So I'll share you a little bit of Sharon's story, and this to me encapsulates what is different about One Heart. We're not just trying to provide a band-aid, we're taking the kids from level 1 to level 7.
My name is Sharon Cherona and I'm 15 years old. When my mother was living with us, we went through hardships. My mother wanted to ban us one day because she saw that the life was too hard. When we went through that, we told our grandmother. Then our grandmother came and took us home. But still, we had a lot of challenges at home, like food. We couldn't get food. When I got home in the evening, I had to go search for food to prepare for my brother Vincent, because he was still young and he needed protection and care.
Were you always able to go to school, or did you miss some?
I missed a lot because I had to look after my brother Vincent. I was so happy to come to One Heart. The first day I came here, it was very nice. We enjoyed the way we saw the house. We were coming to live in a house which I had never seen in my life. It was a very good time for me to come here.
And how have you found living with 40 brothers and sisters?
Living with 40 kids here is very nice. I enjoy living with them because they are encouraging. Our parents here are so special to us because they take care of us as if we are their own children. When I came to One Heart, we were taken to school, which is Cornerstone, and I was very happy to go to a private school.
And what have you just achieved now?
I was among the top students in the whole country, and I am joining a school in Nakuru, which is a national school.
And what does that mean to you?
For me, joining a national school, it has already shown me my future to help me to become a neurosurgeon.
What age did you think you wanted to be a neurosurgeon?
When I was 5 years old, I thought I had an uncle. He came and told me, what could you want to be in future? And I told him that I wanted to be a neurosurgeon.
A neurosurgeon is a very big goal, yes?
Yes.
Do you believe you're committed enough to achieve it?
Yes, I believe.
And why do you want to be a neurosurgeon so much?
I want to be a neurosurgeon because of what my mother went through. I'm very determined to work hard in school, to work hard in secondary school and in university school to achieve my goal of being a neurosurgeon.
I just wanted to say, Sharon, that we are so very proud of you in Australia. You really mean a lot to us, and it means a lot to us to see you have such big ambitions and such big goals. And we want to do everything we can to support you to achieve those, because we believe you can.
When I grow up, I will be a neurosurgeon.
So like I said, if I was to encapsulate what drives me, look, I'm a man on a mission. I'm going to make that legacy happen. Thousands of children's lives exactly like that, and this is our first village. It's the first of many. Just to finish that idea of what this village is, it'll be 4 homes, 100 children, and then around 500 local children. So their fee-paying income from their fees offset all of the cost for our orphan children, and the farming initiatives generate the model. It runs itself, then we replicate. So the other key point I want to make is this. When we talk about legacy, don't take me as if I'm trying to come here and say I'm trying to motivate you to donate to this cause. I'm not. Donate to another cause, do anything else, because it's not about money either. Money helps, money's a tool, and don't get me wrong, we can't do this without money, but make your life count in what you give to others, in your spirit, in your time, and in your finances. For me, I like to live by this motto that I've told myself. Live a life that your kids will be proud of. I use that as a test, I use it as a measure. And I knew I was on track with this little idea of mine when my little girl was in grade 5. She was 5 years old in grade prep, and they had Father's Day at her school in prep. So all the dads are sitting down on those tiny little chairs, you know, the sort, and they give the kids all these little notes to say, my dad likes to, and the kids had to fill out the rest. And it was quite funny, but a defining moment for myself. I sat down with the other dads, I know them, we looked at each other's cards, and my dad likes to drink beer and watch football. And we had a bit of laugh, and the other one, my dad likes to fart and put my head under the blanket. Awesome. And then they put mine down, and the blokes looked at it and went, oh, crap, thanks, mate. Oops. My dad likes to help people by making them houses in Africa. Aria. Bam, it's working. So, and I'm not saying that to big note myself, I just thought it was quite funny that those ideas that we can use to define and drive our own life, our children are the key. Our children, you can say, practice, do what I say and not as I do, but you need to live your life in a way that your children will be proud, because they're watching everything. And I want to be able to model my life by what I see through my children. And again, I think another great little test of this now is that my little girl at 6 years old started her first business. I've got an entrepreneur in the making. So she makes these little things out of clay and bakes them and paints them and sells them on social media. It's called Aria's Projects. So she's 7 now, but she's given hundreds of dollars away. 100% of the funds go to charities, not just One Heart, to whatever touches her heart as well, and she always wants to be helping other kids. So to me, I'm using my life, if you understand, as an example to say, to me, that's why I think it's so important to think about others. And thirdly, and I know time's ticking away, but the third part, of course, is generosity. And like I say, I'm not just saying generosity in your dollars, but that's a key tool. And it's not just something I think is a nice theory. Again, it's something one of the values I live my life by. And again, another key quote. I love quotes, they drive me. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Winston Churchill. So for me, I guess we've all heard the sayings, it's better to give than receive, you sow what you reap. All of those theories, they're true. It's a universal principle. I think you ask anyone that's wealthy, and I've learnt these principles, these levels, it has been mind-blowing to me to be able to put so much stuff in perspective in my life, that people at level 6 and 7, 5, 6 and 7 get it. You need to give to be able to sow into others, and it comes back to you one way or another. I see what I give, and this is just my personal story I'm sharing with you. I've got to know you now. I've started at giving away 20% of everything we make as a family, but that's my starting point. I want to grow that and grow that because I see it as an investment in others. Not that I'm getting financial return from it. I don't care if one of these kids never ever thank me or even know I'm behind it, because we empower the Kenyans to run this, or whatever country we're in, on the ground. It's not a white guy coming in being a hero sort of thing. It's far from that. So I see Sharon as the investment, and there's going to be many more like her. So if there's an opportunity, we support any of these causes that we're presenting today, but with One Heart, there's opportunities to get involved in the smaller scale to sponsor a child, $54 a month, and we can run some of these things until we get the sustainable model happening. Corporate partnerships is what I want to see this head to. I want to create real win-win value propositions for businesses that can really partner with us, come over there, see the impact you're making. Do like our office does. We send staff over this in leadership training and personal development, and they're part of it. We get staff, our recruiters tell us, we get staff coming to work with our office because of One Heart. They want to be part of something bigger. You can drive your business by what you're giving as well. Of course, individual philanthropy, exchange programs coming over and run from poverty, which I'll touch on. But this idea of legacy can be in the built form. As an architect, I often go back to the idea of buildings. And this idea that some sponsors have donated funds for a building, and the building's named after them. It's the McVilly-Clark Learning Centre. This was part joke, but the Unstoppables Learning Centre. Why not? These things are possible. There's going to be hundreds of kids' lives changing these places. Now, the next step, which I'm starting to move to the end, that I want to be able to create this sustainable model, but not only do it for the advantage of the children that we're rescuing in Kenya, but I meet so many professionals in my line of business, from the top levels of government through to community groups and everything in between. Time after time, I meet people and they're successful, they've got everything, but they still lack something, that connection to something bigger than themselves. So I'm racking my brain to think of some way that we can generate income, but make it fundraising, make it fun for people to be engaged, and they get something out of it. I think the people coming over on these trips get more out of it than the kids do. So Run from Poverty experience is what we started. What's Kenya famous for? Runners. Where's our village based? Near the world famous E10 high altitude training camp. I bumped into, as you do, one of the most famous athletes in Kenya, World Athlete of the Year, and current world record holding 800 metre runner, Dave Rudisha. In a cafe, long story short, he comes and spends time with our kids. I met up with him in Melbourne. We've become friends. So we tailored this idea around, we take teams of professionals to Kenya, stay in high altitude training camps, surrounded and mentored by the greatest coaches in the world, greatest athletes in the world, in this village like you've never seen before. It's just rural Kenya, but it's where the champions come from. It's called the home of champions. We spend a couple of days building in our village playground. We spend a couple of days going into the slums and the street kids' shelters to see the need. Because if you look at our kids now, they're happy, healthy, loved. You need to see what the need is. And then we run a marathon, as you do. I didn't, I did a half, and then you can run 2K to 42K, and then we hit the Masai Mara for a safari. It's like next level, it's incredible. So I'll run a quick clip so you can see what that's about as well.
You have the opportunity to be part of a life-changing experience, one that will not only push you out of your comfort zone to achieve something extraordinary, but in doing so will transform the lives of orphaned and abandoned children currently living in poverty in Kenya. Over 10 incredible days, based in the world-famous Kenyan high-altitude training camp, you'll be inspired and challenged by seeing the needs and the difference that you can make.
Don't be overwhelmed by the problem, instead be inspired by the challenge.
Run from Poverty experience, that's what we're starting. There's another run coming up in July. There's some forms over there if anyone was interested to be part of that. And each member coming raises $10,000. That's how we've been funding. It costs us $10,000 per classroom. And key groups are just getting behind it, going, bam, we'll just do a classroom. And like I say, their name goes on a plaque there for generations to see. So that's in July this year. So we've just launched it the night before I came here. So that was a busy time. And it truly is, as all the guys said last time. We had 8 of us come over and we raised $105,000, which I think is pretty good for the first one, just to test it before we amplify it. I'll come back to questions. So, for you, how do you design your legacy, and summing up now? Because I'm not trying to use this as an opportunity to talk about me, but if you understand, I just want to be able to use where I'm heading as an example. But for you, find your purpose, find something that motivates, something touches your heart. I know you did some stuff in, what was the country? Zambia, and when you get over there, you just got to get yourself into this context. Give yourself the reality check we all need. We live in a cocoon sometimes. We in Australia are the minority. The bulk of the world don't live like us, and I think it's brilliant to be able to give yourself that reality check and be able to see what it is. So if it's Kenya, it doesn't have to be that. Get into your own community. Where are the needs? The support Caroline, the organisation that she's working with there. Whatever it is that drives you. consider others in doing it. Don't make your legacy about how much, we all know this. It's not about how much you have in your account at the end of your time. And be generous, not just of your finances, but your time. But so many people have so many big ideas, and I believe in my life I'm starting to show that we're making that happen. But for you, I would say just make a start. Whatever it is, that little thing that touches your heart, even if it's not even related to your professional career, just make a start, just get started. Maybe volunteer with an existing organisation. At least you can get an understanding. For me, before we started the rehab, I was leading the team. I did some work with Vinny's Soup Van just to get an understanding of it before we built and grew that. And then lastly, connect with something bigger than yourself. It is just so important. So, final thought is simply create a legacy worth living for. Don't wait to what people are going to say if they say it at your funeral. Think what you want it to be. Live it now. Enjoy it now. Get the benefit, the fulfillment that comes from being able to change a child's life or help assist someone getting into rehabilitation. Whatever it is the most rewarding thing. And money, whatever I do to make money, just becomes the mechanism. And that's still fun, but it's connected to something bigger. So thank you.